Let's podcast. No Joe Giglio today. He's officially on golf assignment for today's show. I am Joe Ovies. We are inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to our friends at Empire Properties. And of course, always thanks to our presenting sponsor, Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, more importantly, local here in North Carolina. When you call, there will be a human in an office somewhere here in North Carolina, and they will come and help you out. Actual on-site, boots-on-the-ground technical support. That is customer service thanks to our friends at Copiers Plus. So check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Today is going to be an Ovies and Friends kind of day on the OG. Originally reached out to Walker Mehl from WFNZ in Charlotte, LockedOn Hornets podcast, to talk about the Hornets and the draft, maybe some larger NBA topics this offseason. And the Hornets went out there and made a splash of their own. We thought Giannis going to the Heat was going to be the deal that everybody talked about. Maybe there's the Jaylen Brown thing going on. No, it's the Hornets that in the last 24 hours went from aggressive offers and pursuit of moving on from LaMelo Ball to actually trading him today to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have my thoughts on what exactly is going on here. I know Walker's got his thoughts as he's processing in real time. We'll bring you that conversation, get into some Carolina Panthers stuff, and see how the Carolina Hurricanes are playing out in Charlotte. Speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, VP of Communications Mike Sunheim, somebody that we've known for a very long time, coming up on 30 years. He's been with the organization, the Carolina Hurricanes, since he got out of college. It's been his job. He's been there 02, 06, obviously 2026. He used to do a blog called The Guy Behind the Guy. We'll tap into that, give you some behind-the-scenes things, some things that maybe you don't see on social media, some things you don't see on television. And what exactly happens with the Stanley Cup night to night? All things. And where the hell is the Prince of Wales trophy? All things we will discuss with Mike Sunheim a little bit later on. And Dimitri Ravanos will drop on by, a little bit of an OG business hybrid show here. We will get into the Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmore season. We're going to workshop the new summer protocols, the new summer bits that all your favorite sports shows will likely be doing at some point in time between now and the start of the football season. Speaking of which, I've actually been in the process of figuring out things for ACC kickoff. I'm the dope who thought ACC kickoff was at the end of July. I didn't realize it was in 3 weeks, in the middle of July. I think it starts up on July 15th. So ACC kickoff will be here before you know it, but we do have a little bit of non-ACC football news. We got ACC basketball news, something that we talked about earlier in the month when the ACC basketball schedules came out, and we saw once again, to be expected, that North Carolina and NC State were not going to play a home-and-home like last year, the first time that happened. It wasn't going to happen this year. Although we argued that both NC State and North Carolina should and eventually would get around to scheduling some sort of non-conference neutral site game. The first domino dropped yesterday when the news came out that NC State was dropping their series against VCU. Now, why would they have a game? Oh, yeah, he's not here anymore, so it doesn't matter. It also clears a path for NC State and North Carolina to do one of these neutral site games, reportedly in Greensboro now. From the News and Observer, it looks like this game is going to happen after the ACC-SEC Challenge, sometime in late December, before the conference slates really get going. It'll be in Greensboro. This, as they're arguing, will benefit the programs in terms of net ranking, which matters for the NCAA tournament. And they'll be able to sell it as well. It's one of the things that we talked about in the aftermath of Duke doing their own deal with Amazon. If you're able to sell these games, you can probably sell it to a local sponsor. You can sign a TV deal with it, all sorts of things that will help you out in the same way that Duke is doing things for itself with their Amazon neutral site package that everybody in the ACC seemed to be chill with. And we're kind of understanding why, because it allows for things like this to happen. I applaud both NC State and North Carolina for getting on top of this. I know there are some fans out there that don't want them to play. I think that's baked into the dynamics of the rivalry, which I completely understand. I don't need to be fan-splained on this one. I look at this simply from a what's good for us perspective. What's good for the fans? What's good for the community? What's good for the economy? And to me, the more times your rivals play, the better. The reasons why we care about this stuff is because the rivals play, because the locals play. And that is always going to get weighted in favor of doing those types of things rather than some non-conference game that really isn't all that appealing to the fan bases or television for that matter. So applaud. I will absolutely applaud this decision by both NC State and North Carolina to do something like this. It's some out-of-the-box thinking to make things work that ultimately benefits everybody. If they want to sell it as a net positive, like as in for the net, it'll help the net rankings, sure. But ultimately, I think it's just good for everybody. Greensboro Coliseum will be interesting, to say the least, as a neutral site. Everybody will have a good time. We also have some soccer tonight. We've got the World Cup continuing on. This is now a meaningless game for the U.S. A little bit of housekeeping. We will be doing a show next week at Raleigh Times, I believe on Wednesday. We'll be doing this Wednesday when the U.S. is in their first knockout stage game. They don't know who they're playing tonight. I also am of the opinion, based on what we've seen with the new format and these teams understanding that they're in and resting players, I would expect that the U.S. will rest a bunch of guys tonight as well, whether it's guys that need the rest or you got some yellow card situations that you don't want bleeding over into the knockout stages. But next week, we're going to be at Raleigh Times. Don't know the exact time yet, but we will be there ahead of a World Cup match with the U.S. in the knockout stages. And of course, we got the NHL offseason as well. As I mentioned earlier this week, while we're still wrapped up in post-Stanley Cup stuff, the league moves on. If you needed like proof positive, like the moment where, all right, we're already starting to think about next season, it was the Brady Tkachuk deal that gets him from Ottawa to Florida. And we've seen some other deals that have taken place. If Giglio were here, he would be talking about Jack Drury being part of a deal out of Colorado. I bring this all up from a Canes perspective to be very, very, consider this like a PSA, all right? One of the things that I've been touching on and I'm curious about, and what's totally different from the previous regime, the Canes are not satisfied. They're not complacent with having won a cup. They see the opportunity that's in front of them. They've got the cap space to make themselves better. And they're going to pursue that this offseason so they can run this thing back and have another crack at the Stanley Cup. In 2002, you'll remember they made it, but didn't make it back to the playoffs until post-lockout, where they win it all. But then you'll remember they didn't make the playoffs again, and then they got back into it in 2009. And of course, the rest is history, right? And that's, to me, the next chapter in all of this. You built. You thought it wasn't going to happen. Finally does. You celebrate it, obviously. But now it's a let's do it again. Let's keep this window open. Let's not be complacent. Let's just not bring everybody back and see what happens. As much as fans, and I'm sure that some people behind the scenes would love to keep this thing as intact as possible. But that's not going to be the case. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the transaction news and who's attached to some of these deals. And the Carolina Hurricanes were floated in that Brady Tkachuk deal. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to be floating around with Dylan Larkin. They're going to be floating around with Connor Hellebuck. They're going to be in on every deal. Now, if you're a Panthers fan and you hear they're going to be in on every deal, you might have some PTSD over Brad Fitterer, the general manager who wanted to be in on every deal that ultimately hurt the franchise going forward, because the Panthers were in F them picks mode when they weren't exactly in a window to win and be okay with F them picks. Look at the Florida Panthers. They're clearly in the F them picks. Golden Knights, same situation. That's not where the Panthers were, even though they were having that attitude. And with the Hurricanes, they are also not of that attitude. They're very much in, we're only going to make deals that help us and what we're comfortable giving up. There are some names that they seem comfortable giving up if the price is right. I know that Alexander Nikishin's name has been floating around. And I say this, again, as a PSA. Tom Dundon, owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Tulsky, general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, have been on record multiple times on various outlets, whether it's a podcast, a radio show, print interview, digital interview, you name it. Tulsky will continuously tell you, I am not resting until I feel that we have all the best possible players that we can bring onto this team. We're always looking for ways to keep the team relevant, improve the team, however you want to frame it. And they're going to explore all these deals. So do not get attached to any of these names. If you're high on Alexander Nikishin, well, they're clearly high on Alexander Nikishin too in terms of potential trade value. And if they can use him as a piece to get a guy that can help them win right now, they're going to do it. If they can use him as a piece to shore up goaltending, which I think is the biggest question mark going into the offseason for the Carolina Hurricanes, you can't run this thing back as is. You can't run this thing back with Brandon Bussey and Kochetkov. I still think they need to go out and get a legitimate starter and that Freddie Anderson retires. He's got some knee issues. We get all that kind of stuff. So they're going to be in the mix on these types of things. Do not get attached. If anything, appreciate it, right? Appreciate it. This is something that competitive teams in their windows right now that are focused on winning should absolutely do. And if it comes at the expense of a player that you've grown attached to, it sucks, but the idea is the winning will be the soothing balm to whatever hurt feelings you might have about a player moving on to something else. And I would say this as it relates to the Carolina Hurricanes, they continue to be emboldened by the fact that their moves have paid off with regular season success, postseason success, and of course, the ultimate proof of concept, winning the Stanley Cup. So they're only going to be emboldened by being and continuing to be aggressive to go out there and try to do this again. Oh, you thought that the Marty Necas deal was going to come to bite us in the ass? Well, they got swept. They weren't even in the final. We won the whole thing. Oh, did you think the Mikko Rantanen thing was going to bury us and that it didn't work out? No big deal. We actually went and got the right pieces that fit. We made this thing work. He's at home. We win the Stanley Cup, right? So you see where they're emboldened with these types of things. And I don't blame them. It's working for them. So keep it going. Let's see what happens. Just don't get attached to any particular player if I were a Carolina Hurricanes fan. And speaking of Dundon, he's been making some of the rounds. The most recent appearance he did was with Spittin' Chicklets. I listened to the interview. It was roughly over 30 minutes. Some interesting things that he said, some interesting insight. I thought he was, in my opinion, playing along with the boys, right? With the Spittin' Chicklets guys. And he's a charmer. I'll give him that. He had those guys charmed, right? But there was something that he said at the end of the interview that I thought was interesting. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he floated out the idea of a new building for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I'll be honest with you, at first blush, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Why are we talking about a new building already when you haven't even completed the renovations and the entertainment district and office district that's supposed to be going around Lenovo Center, right? That's kind of weird. But then I realized when they did their 15-year lease, when they re-upped their lease, when the news comes out, it kind of sticks in your mind like, well, it's 15 years. And you're just thinking 15 years from now. And 15 years is a long time. Don't get me wrong. But it's been a bit. And you're already starting to think about the next thing. What's it going to look like in 10 years? Which again, 10 years is a long time. And I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiment that at some point, the building's bones are only so good that at some point, all the renovations, all the upkeep, trying to modernize it to keep up with today's standards, at some point you might need to start from scratch. So I didn't think it was necessarily a wild thing to say when you take a step back and think about it, that this stuff moves quickly and we could be discussing a new arena. Now, where would that arena go? I'm still convinced that downtown is not where it's going to end up being. I do not think it's going to be downtown. I think they've even earmarked some state lands that are not too far from the current site of Lenovo Center, because that would also work into whatever future plans they might have with a baseball stadium. So all these things are 10, 20 years down the line. And when you put it in that mindset, hearing that you're thinking about a new building makes a lot of sense. But of course, when you start talking new buildings, you do end up getting into some political stuff and who's going to pay for it, right? And sure enough, Tom Dundon is in the news again as it relates to the Portland Trail Blazers on two fronts. The first one is the guy that they hired is a one-year deal, I believe, at $1 million with like a team option. Obviously, coaches in the NBA aren't pleased with this because it is detrimental to their value when they negotiate their contracts. And I can understand where they are coming from. Just like I can understand where Dundon's coming from and that he has a certain value in his mind of where he's going to spend money. He'll spend money on the players. He will spend in the cap because he feels that'll help him win and it'll put butts in seats. Clearly, he does not value an NBA coach the same way he would value a player. So I'm still withholding judgment as to how this is going to go in the NBA as he disrupts things, because clearly he came into the league, the NHL, disrupted some things, had some herky-jerky, uncomfortable moments with key individuals, Ron Francis being one of them. Don Waddell, never forget, he said, oh, no, he's got a contract for life. Except that's not how it works. You actually have to sign these guys to contracts, right? I know he said the same thing with Rod Brindamore, but I think that was in a different context. So he's learned some things in the NHL. I think he's going to learn some things in the NBA, and there's going to be some friction. And he's back into what the Bill Simmons label is, El Cheapo. And this contract certainly adds to the El Cheapo lore if you are in those NBA circles. But the Portland Trail Blazers aren't really of our concern. What they do with the coaching staff in the NBA, not really of our concern here in the Triangle. What is of our concern, though, is the news that came out that Dundon says he expects taxpayers to cover the entire Moda Center makeover. They're looking at a $600 million makeover to keep up with other NBA franchises. Again, same thing we've talked about with Lenovo Center. Now, not to get too deep in the weeds, this works for Lenovo Center because it's a sweetheart deal where I'm pretty sure they don't pay rent. So you save money that way. And obviously the county kicks in because there's various other taxes that are involved that are supposed to be earmarked for these types of things, right? But Dundon said during a brief appearance at an annual meeting of the Portland Metro Chamber, according to Oregon Live, quote, it feels like we're making a pretty big investment by staying here. And that's why the taxpayers should probably pick up the tab. This is from City Councilor Candace Avalos. I'm going to have a hard time agreeing to give public money if I'm not seeing private investment. And then it goes on and on and on and on and on. So all of this is kind of bubbling in the news cycle related to either the Carolina Hurricanes as it relates to the draft, free agency, all the trades that are happening. And a lot of the big movement obviously is going to happen via trades because it's not a big free agent class. And then we also have some arena stuff locally. And then you have this business with Portland that I think helps inform Tom's whole MO when it comes to these real estate plays. All things to keep an eye on, all things that I'm sure will get us through our summer protocols. Housekeeping. Housekeeping is brought to you by Inovana Green Cleaning Solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
As I mentioned, Wednesday we'll be at Raleigh Times at some point. When we know the time, we'll let you know. We'll be there ahead of the World Cup knockout stage game for the U.S. Again, that'll be on July 1. And then on Friday, July 10th, we will officially kick off summer protocols at the local in Apex. They've got the last keg of OG Lime. OG Lime is gone. No more cans, nothing. But the local has the last keg. So we're going to tap that last keg of OG Lime and do a live mailbag while we're hanging out there. So come out and join us. We'll give you some times and details a little bit later on, but just earmark that for July 10th at the local in Apex. The summer pop-up shop is closed. No big deal. The secret stash is always there for you. Check out theog.shop. Again, that's theog.shop. And of course, our friends at Breaking Tea keep dropping heat, and more heat related to the Carolina Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup. In fact, I saw the email that went out that the Canes and Caniacs have made it the #1 Stanley Cup winner seller. So like all the previous Stanley Cup champs since Breaking Tea has been around doing shirts and stuff like that, the Canes are the best seller in breaking history. So shout out to you, Canes fans. And hopefully, for our sake, you're using the link that's in our podcast description and our YouTube description. That's our referral link. It'll take you to Breaking Tea. Go look up the Carolina Hurricanes. We get a little something off of each sale. So we appreciate that. Go to breakingtea.com. Also, big thanks to the Butcher's Market. They always bring you OG Live. And of course, our mailbag. Back to normal mailbag protocols on Friday. The free portion of the mailbag is brought to you by our friends at the Butcher's Market. And again, on Thursdays, we're always brought to you by the Butcher's Market when we go live. And you can check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. Again, that's thebutchersmarkets.com. We got July 4th coming up, prime grilling time. Get everything you need while you're there. You want to crush it at the pool cookout? You want to crush it in your backyard? This is the place to go. Everything that you need, right down to rubs, marinades, the right kind of charcoal, and of course, most importantly, things to throw on the grill. It all happens at the Butcher's Market, so go check them out. Now, the last thing you want while you're hanging out outside while grilling is getting bitten up by mosquitoes. This is where you contact our friends at bugsbite.com. Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, they're going to help you out. They have a total home protection subscription. One subscription, one low price, you bundle and save, right down to termite traps. This is to make sure that your home gets the best service possible, again, for one low subscription fee. So head on over to bugsbite.com to find out more. And speaking of your home, it is your number one investment. Obviously, you want to protect it and you want to enjoy it. That's why we tell you to go to bugsbite.com. You can also utilize the equity in your home to help yourself out financially. Credit card interest rates, astronomical. You're going to get a better rate refinancing, even if the rates are a little too high for your comfort. But here's the thing about Miller Lending. You don't pay closing costs. You pay what the rate is. And eventually the rates come down. And when those rates do come down, you can refinance again. And you're not doing the internal math to see if all those closing costs that you paid that get baked into your monthly payment will pay off in time. Typically, people refinance about every 4 years for any number of reasons. If you were to pay closing costs to get a slightly lower rate, on average, it takes about 8 years to break even on those closing costs. See where the math isn't mathing? This is why Miller Lending doesn't mess with closing costs. This is why you shouldn't mess with closing costs. Never pay closing costs. Contact our friends at Miller Lending. 919-447-3377, millerlending.com. Take that thing to close. You'll get a polo from us, from Roback, in a gift basket. So again, that's millerlending.com. Well, I mentioned it at the top of the podcast. Let's talk about it in depth with Walker Mehl. LockedOn Hornets podcast, WFNZ in Charlotte. Never a dull moment in the Queen City, my man. LaMelo Ball traded.
I mean, it's all very disorienting, you know. We just got news of this last night following NBA draft coverage. It's supposed to be Jaylen Brown. He's supposed to be on the move. That's the guy. And then Shams drops the Shams bomb on us and says, no, actually, LaMelo looks like anything could happen within the next 24 to 48 hours. So I wasn't sleeping a whole lot last night. It happened, Joe. LaMelo Ball is now a Minnesota Timberwolf. He's no longer a Charlotte Hornet.
All right, grade the trade. Immediate. I need your immediate reaction. Give me grades.
C to C minus. Yeah, that's what that's it. That's what my gut is telling me. Okay. So yeah, for those that don't know, right? This thing just happened within the last 30 minutes.
Let's actually, as of this recording, it's 10:33 in the morning as we put this live to tape, if you will. And I understand that I've been in my Stanley Cup bubble. Okay. Mm-hmm. And yesterday was focused on getting ready for ACC kickoff in a couple of weeks. And I knew that there were some NBA draft storylines, like what happened with Henry Vasar and Isaiah Evans. How did they drop to where they ended up dropping into the second round? And then late last night, this morning, the first place I saw it was from Mark Stein on his newsletter that the Hornets were taking aggressive offers for LaMelo Ball. And I thought to myself, why does this feel like this is coming out of nowhere based on how this past season went and all the good vibes and feelings and everything else? So that's where we were going into yesterday. And then today he's no longer a Hornet. So is it as left field as it feels, or was this something that was percolating under the surface throughout the regular season into the postseason and getting to the draft?
Out of left field as it feels. Completely out of left field. Nobody thought that this was going to happen, especially after all of the good vibes that we had just experienced with a 44-win basketball season. They don't win 44 games. This is a team that has lost a ton since the Bobcats came all the way back in 2004. And they didn't lose a whole lot, especially once we got to the turn of the calendar here in 2026. They were putting up all of the best lineup data, the analytics. They were on the Hornets side. A lot of that is because of LaMelo. People need to understand, LaMelo is an offensive engine. I mean, he is a maestro. He does things with the basketball that not many people can do, which is exactly why Minnesota is willing to give up a whole bunch of pick swaps, an unprotected first-round pick, a really good basketball player in Naz Reid, and they can give up all of that stuff, and it's still feel underwhelming to Hornets fans. I know what Shams is going to say. I know what the insiders are going to say. They're going to be agent pilled, and they're going to tell you that this is a really nice haul for the Hornets. And it's not like they're entirely wrong, but I can tell you I would not have made this trade had Minnesota came to me and said, this is all the stuff we're going to give you, right? I don't even know if we've gone over the details yet. It's Naz Reid, former sixth man of the year, making about $20 to $25 million a pop, okay, on the books for the next 4 seasons or something like that. Again, this is all very fresh. The trade just happened within 30 minutes. Naz Reid, an unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps, which is important, not additional picks, right? That means you have 2 bites at the apple in the first round. That's extremely valuable. They're pick swaps, which means the Hornets get the most favorable of the 2 draft selections between Minnesota and the Hornets. So Naz Reid, an unprotected first, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 3 additional second-round selections for LaMelo Ball. And Josh Green is also a part of the deal, probably for just, payroll fodder. Yeah, that's what it is.
This is a 2033 unprotected.
That's right. It's way out there, man. And the first-round pick swaps, the first one is in 2028. Yeah. Then 2029, 2030, they're consecutive.
Yeah, that's now, I guess the other thing that I would, if I was to kind of flag a reason why maybe they're getting on this now, is July 6th is right around the corner. And for those who don't know, with LaMelo's contract, he has an opportunity to sign an extension on July 6th. He's got 3 years left on his deal, eligible to sign a 2-year, nearly $120 million extension on July 6th. So is this cap considerations, not wanting to be tied to LaMelo for as much money over the next amount of years? Like, does money play into this?
If we start with the question everybody is asking, why? Okay. I think you could go to the fact that LaMelo is extension eligible. And when you want to pay somebody $50 million a year, it's a lot of money to give to anybody that's not an outright top 5, top 10 player in the league every single season. Now you're talking about adding more years and more than $50 million a season on top of the contract he's already earning, which, by the way, I would say is a totally fair deal. The contract that he's on now, you're just, again, locked up for a long time and you don't have a whole lot of flexibility. So that could be a part of it. You could also look at the fact that this past season where he played 72 games, it's the first time that he's gotten over that 50-game threshold since his second year in the league. So the previous 3 seasons, he failed to reach that 50-game threshold with lots of ankle injuries. There were a ton of them. And even this past season, the Hornets were very careful. I thought rightfully so. They were very careful with the minutes restriction. They even were trying to be creative as possible by not starting him a few games because they wanted to maximize him in the fourth quarter, but they didn't want to pass a limits restriction that had him at about 27 minutes a game. So the injury history and the money that could come down the line, those are the reasons, I guess. It's all very surprising as we got the initial report less than 12 hours ago, and eventually it came through at about 9:30 or so.
Well, it's funny too, because for full disclosure, I reached out to you earlier in the week just to kind of do a normal check-in, right? We got the draft.
We're supposed to talk draft, man. We're supposed to talk the Germans, Hannes Steinbach and Christian Andersen. That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
That's what I thought we would be talking about.
Yeah.
What's the next step for the Hornets? Maybe sprinkle in some Panthers offseason now that they're on break. We'll see him again leading into the Hall of Fame game in just a few weeks when camp opens up. And I was also going to check in on Hurricanes fever to see if it's truly taken over in Charlotte after they won the Stanley Cup. And then, last night and then this morning I'm preparing. I'm like, okay, well, fluid situation with LaMelo. Now, there's all the questions about LaMelo and he is what you associate with the team. Well, no longer, obviously. That comes with pros and cons. Okay, if Giglio were here right now, he would tell you why he doesn't really like LaMelo Ball, and
he's not the only one.
And he's not the only one. He is a divisive individual in the NBA. I think it was Brian Windhorst who probably nailed it in that if you're a team and you want to see your social media see an uptick, LaMelo's your guy. You know, like if you want to dominate Instagram, you want to dominate TikTok, LaMelo's your guy, but he can be a little bit of, what you see is what you get. Do you like him? Do you not? I kind of get the sense that this is now Con Knippel's team, right? Like it was LaMelo's. He was the front-facing person. It's now Con's team. Brandon Miller, he's going to have more expectations put on him. Yeah. And also, I guess if you're freeing up some cap space and whatnot by moving on from LaMelo, I would imagine that they're going to bring Kobe White back in some form or fashion after he had a fantastic moment in the postseason. So I guess this is just, what does this mean specifically? I guess we can start with Con Knippel. What does this mean for him as he is now the front-facing person for the Hornets?
Yeah, all of that is baked into the cake. And I'll start with the Brian Windhorst comment last night. Shams reports the potential trade. Then the draft panel starts to kick the idea around, and they discussed it even further. Brian Windhorst, which, by the way, it should be mentioned, Wendy does not like being aggregated. He does not like being speculative. He's very careful about this stuff in a not so annoying way, right? He doesn't have any podcasts saying, please don't aggregate me. He doesn't go too far. Like it's in a respectful way, in my opinion. Even with that being considered, he just came out and said, yeah, so the Hornets are pivoting. The Hornets are looking at an opportunity to pivot with their future having had been LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, where now it's Brandon Miller and Con Knippel. If they can find enough value in a trade for LaMelo and Miles Bridges to boost the supporting cast around Con and Brandon, then it looks like they might pull the trigger. But that's the task at hand. That seems to be the task at hand. And that's what he threw out there. So the Hornets are looking to pivot, apparently, with their future having had been LaMelo and Miles to Con Knippel and Brandon Miller. What does it look like with Con as the front-facing guy? There's still a lot of questions to answer about whether Con can actually do this. Now, do this being be 1A on a fantastic team, like get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history, seems lofty. Could be. Dude just had one of the best, I would say the best rookie shooting season we've ever seen, and a fantastic rookie season where, in my opinion, maybe a little biased, I think he should have won Rookie of the Year.
Sure.
Con still has to figure out if he's going to be that offensive engine, and the Hornets have to figure out if he can be the guy. If they don't really think that that's all that relevant, and can Con be this, 1A, 1B, to Brandon Miller, then maybe that's just the answer. And the power is the depth, where you have all of these guys that got a lot of juice with the basketball in their hands, and you're just dangerous 1 through 5 all across the floor. Or now with all of these picks, do you flip them? Do you flip them for now we can have the Jaylen Brown conversations. Now we can have whoever the other disgruntled star is, or whatever the other, younger pieces where teams are just looking to bottom out altogether. Hornets, will you be the landing spot for these really talented guys that you can flip all these first round selections for? Like, there's still a lot of unknown to all of it. I would think that they're going to try to help Con out as much as possible and not put all of that pressure on him to have him be the face of the franchise.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up what to do with all of those picks, because you can see the shifting in the Eastern Conference, right? The Knicks are not going away. You also have Boston, and what are they going to end up doing? Miami makes the big splash by getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, my opinion with the Heat, I brought this up a little bit on Tuesday when it was all said and done. It's like, I guess Pat Riley finally got the big fish he's been looking for ever since LeBron James left, but I don't know if they necessarily got greatly better with just the addition of Antetokounmpo. But again, this reshuffling in the East shows you how competitive it is. So if you're the Hornets, you got to keep the momentum going some way, somehow. Okay. And I'm just wondering if they're not done. Like, because that was my other thought too. With all those picks that are so far into the future, I just feel like you got to win now. I don't know what you're going to do with an unprotected 2033 pick and all these pick swaps and all these second round picks. I don't know what you're going to do with that gets you better today, which is where you need to strike while the iron's hot. Not to make this too much of a 1-for-1 with the Carolina Hurricanes, right? But they're not complacent. They understand that these windows can get away from you real quick if you're not proactive about it. And I'm just curious, of all of the iterations of Hornets front offices, what makes you What's different about this one that they might actually be a little bit more proactive than what we've seen in years past?
Well, I guess we've seen them make deals where it felt like old regimes were kind of sitting on their hands, not doing anything to improve the team all that much, and they wouldn't pick a lane. That was the most frustrating part about all of it, is they would be in the middle portion of the Eastern Conference standings, which was always said to be the worst place to be in the Eastern Conference standings. So you don't get this really high draft pick, and you also aren't going to the playoffs every single year, which is why, I mean, it was, every single season you could set your watch to the Hornets getting the 11th overall selection, which, you could still win that way, but clearly you want to get one of those top 5 picks. So enter the new regime once Michael Jordan sells the team to Gabe Plotkin, Rick Schnall, affectionately known as Schlotkin. Those guys, the process has been very good. Like, I have not disagreed with really any decision, and I mean any decision, that Jeff Peterson, the hire from Schlotkin over from the Nets over the last couple of years, I haven't really disagreed with any personnel decision that they've made, maybe outside of selecting Tijan Salon 6th overall a couple of years ago, but just greasing the wheels on some of these trades, like going after Josh Green. It's free money. Go ahead and pick it up. Getting Grant Williams for free. Go ahead, pick it up. Now you're drafting Con Knipple 4th overall and getting 2 guys in the 2nd round, and Sion James and Ryan Kalkbrenner, that immediately contributes to the rotation, like right away for 2nd rounders. It's crazy. The process has been very good. But when they first came aboard, they traded Terry Rozier. In the news for different reasons, but they got rid of Terry Rozier, and they got good value, man. That Miami pick, they still have a very good pick. It got a little worse with the Giannis trade, but it's a good asset. They traded PJ Washington. I was always a fan, but they got, like, to me, probably 110 cents, 120 cents on the dollar for getting the Dallas Mavericks pick in return. Like, I'm with it. So they made decisions, right? They came in and said, hey, let's do stuff. Let's actually do something. And over the last couple of years, they've made little moves here and there to try to improve the team. They won 44 games, Joe. Like, that's not a team that does that. In the second half, this was a squad that had great numbers all across the board. And it's why I would think, because of the timing of it all, this is not the time to sell and get all of the picks for a team that's already really young, by the way, right? Like, so they're already crazy young. If I had to guess, I would guess that this regime that has shown to be pretty active to move these picks and go after something else to help us win more games next season, because that always seemed to be the goal, and it would be surprising if it wasn't.
I don't know. It's not about winning more games for me now. It's about, let's make a playoff run. That's
that's implied, but yeah, for sure.
It's all implied. I get that, but as you know, you can just get to the playoffs without. That's where the win more games comes in. Totally understand what you're saying. Right. Win more games so that you're not dealing with the play-in situation. You actually get into a series. I'm talking about outright making the playoffs and actually going on some sort of playoff, win a series. Yeah, it's one of these things that the Hornets, because people always ask the question, it's like, what's going to take for you guys to talk about the Hornets more often? And the answer is really simple. Like, there has to be some level of consistency and reason for us to truly put our arms around the Hornets. And last year really was, and seeing how that city reacted, seeing how even our own audience and with this podcast was like, hey, like, the Hornets are interesting again. You don't want that momentum to slip away. And again, I say this having watched the Canes do this multiple times, where it's like, hey, great playoff run. Hey, so we're not going to do this for another 10 years, guys. Sorry about that. That is a great way to kill a fan base, man. And the momentum behind it. So they have to be doubly sure about what they're doing moving on from LaMelo, because as we discovered, there are a lot of LaMelo fans out there that are going to be really at a loss as to why exactly this is happening. And if you sell it as, we are here to pivot away from a particular era, this is the new one that we have, our future is with these guys, and that future is going to consist of making the playoffs consistently, then I think fans are ultimately going to take that every single time.
He's extremely popular. And this past season gave a lot of evidence to all of the people that believed in him as to why he was so popular, on top of all of the social media stuff that he brings to the table. He was really good. Like, I know he's divisive. I get it. He's divisive because he's real young. He showcases what a lot of people perceive to be immaturity. Right. He's a kid. He's not this big time troublemaker. It's not somebody that's getting. I can tell you the Hornets do not worry about some notification in the middle of the night saying LaMelo got arrested, got in trouble, did this, did that. They don't worry about that. The dude is just a big old kid, and you can call that, immature with whatever level you want to. And it makes sense, right? At the same time, it's not like somebody they're worrying about constantly. And I had plenty of thoughts on the Nick Wright stuff, who called him a clown, and then he had a whole bunch of clapback. I thought that was, again, he's pretty careful about doing that sort of stuff. And so I thought it was interesting with LaMelo, but like that's the perception, right? If you're here, then you could see him. Yeah, he gets in the car crash, man. Terrible driver.
I was going to say, the alert that you're going to get is, or at least the alert that I would have is, oh, is that LaMelo's car? I'm going to go over this way.
That's right. It is, and it's you'd want him to take an initiative on some of like the, hey man, come on, dude. It's just like the come on, dude stuff. But it's not enough to trade him for this, in my opinion. Right? Like it wasn't enough for me to take this kind of value at a weird time in Hornets land, where you just did a great job of building back up some good faith from some trust with the fan base. And it's a great way. You mentioned it, right? It's a good point. If you were hell bent on ruining the trust from the fan base that you had just earned, it would look a lot like this. It would look a lot like trading LaMelo Ball.
But I'm here to tell you right now, and I'm speaking from experience with the Carolina Hurricanes as a 1-for-1. And I spent the start of today's show warning Canes fans, this is not like previous regimes. If you see Alexander Nikishin as part of some sort of trade bait that would theoretically make your team better, they're going to do it. They're going to be attached to some of these deals because they've already set the tone that their whole MO is to keep this window open as long as they possibly can and bring the best players they possibly can every single time. That's why you will see the Canes attached to a variety of different deals. So I would say this to Hornets fans in that, LaMelo exists in a sense that he's interesting. You can put your arms around him. He's an exciting player. But when that's all you have, that's why you end up developing that attachment. Okay. That's why you develop that attachment, because I've kind of seen the same things with Bryce Young to a certain extent, which we'll pivot to the Panthers here in a second. When you don't do a lot of winning, you get really attached to certain players that make you feel something. LaMelo made you feel something.
So
that'll go away. Yeah. That'll go away if and only if the Hornets front office makes this work with more winning. And once they start winning, you will tip your cap to LaMelo. Thanks for the memories, but I really enjoy this winning consistently thing more than anything else.
Couple things, for sure. This regime, through all of the other moves, they have earned a lot of trust. And I do think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. This is clearly the biggest move that they've ever made. This is one of the biggest moves in franchise history. Easily. So we'll see. But I would have some,
other than trading the rights of Kobe.
That's the one. Oh, look at you. That's the one, right? You trade LaMelo. I would think that they're going to try to cash in with all of these assets on something else to help them win next year and do the winning thing. What I do want to make clear about LaMelo, though, he is a good basketball player and he is a winning basketball player, which a lot of people would refute. If you go back to the year where he comes into the league, wins Rookie of the Year, he was being celebrated because how much he helped the Hornets win basketball games. Joe, we've done a complete 180 around the reputation of LaMelo, and people just forget about his first season when Wendy, Bobby Marks, all of these national NBA pundits would go on ESPN and tell you. Now, the difference with LaMelo and other rookies is that he actually makes winning plays. He helps everybody as a table setter. He makes the right read. He's a good three-point shooter. He actually does all of the things that help teams win basketball games. His second year, he's an all-star. Years 3, 4, and 5, he's hurt. He doesn't play. What do you know? Those are the years that the Hornets win 20 games and less than 30 in every single one of those seasons. The year that he plays 70, what do you know? They're above 500 again because they've helped him with the talent and he was healthy. And you see, like, the numbers are staggering, man. Not even just the LaMelo individual nerd boy stats that you could look at. If you just want to keep it simple, if you just want to do the counting stats thing, they won a lot of games when he was playing basketball.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, they didn't get there. I would say that they had other problems with their roster. Got to get bigger, all that. Got to play better defense. They had some injuries up front. Musa was hurt, and they got punked by Orlando, right? They got absolutely punked. I don't look at LaMelo and say, hey, man, got to get rid of that guy if you want to make it to the next step. I would say we got to get some guys to help LaMelo, just for people to understand. LaMelo is a very good and I would say even winning basketball player with the right tools around him, which I think is something you could say for a lot of players.
I know you have the synergy numbers up at all times. You have a tab with synergy, do you not?
I do. Yes. Locked On. Shout out to the Locked On Podcast Network for hooking us up.
Get those synergy numbers. All right. Transitioning over to the Panthers. I mentioned Bryce Young. I see this week he made the NFL 100. I think he's 98? I believe is the number, right?
98.
Cool. But I think this just add it to the pile of reasons why this upcoming season for the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young, and to a certain extent, Dave Caniacs, make or break is probably too strong of a phrase to use. But man, there is going to be pressure on the Panthers in a way that we have not felt around the Carolina Panthers in a long time. Keeping the momentum, making the playoffs, right? Having the kind of year that Bryce Young had to make you feel good about where things are going. His own contract, right? Some of these moves that they've made. This is pressure, and they're going to be on primetime for the first time in a long time. So these are all things that are just adding to the pile of one of the more fascinating NFL seasons for a team that you're not going into the year thinking they're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of thing you're looking for, but there's a lot of pressure on this team.
Time to justify it.
Yep.
Your peers put you in the top 100, which isn't nothing. I know we like to make fun of the player opinions because that's how crazy guys get into all-star games when the NBA decides to allow the players to vote and take up to like 50% of the vote or whatever it is. And we can get some wonky results. We've had problems with the NFL top 100. But what's interesting to me about this is not whether or not that they got this right with Bryce Young being at 98. The interesting thing to me is that he is getting some respect enough to somehow sneak into the back end of the top 100. And I would think it's because you start to see some of the games that he has helped the Panthers win with some of these fourth quarter comebacks. These players in the NBA, I think this is across the NBA and the NFL, they value the winning time stuff. They value the clutch gene. They value the Kobe of it all, Allen Iverson of it all, right? Bryce came up clutch in a lot of those moments, even against the Rams, which I know was talked about in the vignette that they post when they discuss why Bryce is coming in at number 98. They'll point to a lot of that. And do I think he's top 100? I can't tell you that I've reached the level of July yet in sports radio, that I have ranked the top 100 players myself. But I can tell you, I probably would not have had him on that list. But I do think it's kind of interesting for him, whether it brings him more confidence, encourages him that, you know what, he is that guy. Does it only help build that confidence up after what was a terrible situation, certainly his rookie season that we had to build back up over the last couple of years of Carolina Panther football? It doesn't mean that Dan Morgan is rushing to give him this monster contract extension. He still has to justify this ranking, and even more so if he's going to get $50 million a pop, if that's really what we're looking at here. But I did find it interesting that the players gave him enough respect to where they got him in there somehow, some way. He's ranked in the double digits.
Hey, man, I respect it. It's a time of year to drop lists. Dimitri Ravanos is going to join us after this, and we're going to go through our Mount Rushmore sports topics to get you through the summer.
Love it.
You know?
Love it.
Yeah, you got to make the needles bounce one way or the other. You don't take. This is not a time to take off.
But you know what's tired is Mount Rushmore. What's wired in sports radio is Inception Mount Rushmore, where you have different forms of Mount Rushmore. Right? Yeah. That's classic. That's when you know you're a radio vet, when you're Leo DiCaprio telling us what the Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores is.
See, we don't have a whiner line, Walker. We have the OG sports phone. Totally different thing. It's called different things.
And people call in and do this?
Yeah, you can call, you can leave a voicemail, we'll play it, but it's not the whiner.
Like with their phone?
It's crazy.
You guys, man.
Crazy.
The OGs for a reason.
Look at us coming up with ways to reinvent sports podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We'll close on this. Speaking of the who sponsors your text line now?
It is the FanDuel text line.
It's the FanDuel text line? Okay.
Yeah.
It's no longer the auto body text line. How long ago was that?
I don't even know. Oh, we've had a couple and they last for a year, and then it takes us about a month long period for us to like completely get rid of it. But once it's out, it's out now. Now it's all this new one.
So what was the outside of my bubble? What was the view of the Carolina Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup? How did that play in Charlotte? I'm curious.
Well, we definitely talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
People were excited about Carolina Hurricanes hockey. One, the series was crazy. Right? Like the hockey was entertaining, right?
Yeah.
If you just want to be here for the fun of it all and party with the team,
like, as I said to you, if you like sports, like theoretically, that's why we're all here. If you like sports. The Stanley Cup final delivered, man. It absolutely delivered in terms of drama, wonkiness, comebacks, all that stuff. They had storylines on storylines. So it delivered in that front.
Oh my God. I mean, just the novice hockey fan like I am, like just tuning in and seeing all of the magic that took place in those first few games and then the storylines, right? It gives you all of the stuff that a novice sports fan would want to turn on the channel and turn on the TV for and go in. And I think Charlotte really got behind that. Yeah. They really did want the Carolina Hurricanes to win pretty badly. We were getting some text on the FanDuel text line saying, hey, man, how about those Canes? It was A-block material in Charlotte.
A-block material. Look
leading off the show, baby. Leading off the show. We got to talk about Bussy. We got to talk about the old man now, Jordan Staal. Right. We're even talking about whether he was going to win Conn Smythe or not. Like, we're actually okay. Like, decently detailed conversations. I can't tell you it was particularly good, but we could do a whole inside radio conversation, which I tend to fall down the rabbit hole of. But people are tuning in to hear Walker Mehl's thoughts about this. So Walker Mehl's thoughts are probably going to be more of a macro view than getting into the nitty gritty. But it was really cool to talk about.
Look, all Pat McAfee has to do is say, have you seen what the Carolina Hurricanes are doing? And then some people are like, oh, he's talking about us.
It's crazy.
That's all you got to do.
What about those Canes, baby?
Have you seen the Caniacs?
Will he say cons, though? Well, does he have to put? I don't think there's a way to put the CH. He goes with the AH a lot.
The Caniacs.
Go Caniacs, baby. Yeah. How about the Canes? Well received, man. Like it was a lot of fun to watch the storyline of Bussy. To have it's funny. Jordan Staal wins the Conn Smythe, and he's not even the most important Staal in the franchise's history, which was kind of interesting. Hey, that's my take, Joe. That's my novice level take. Is he more important than Eric? Maybe there's some fodder for you guys.
I would say that Jordan Staal, in terms of Kane's lore, is more important than Eric. He's more important than his brother. Yes.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yes. Fair enough. I thought it was a debate though, and we had that debate, and we also talked about Rod, which is also very Rod. Give that guy a statue now.
Which we'll close on this, since we are in Mount Rushmore season. Is Rod Brindamore on your Mount Rushmore of North Carolina coaches?
Current ones for just all time has
all
to
time. I'm talking all time. I'm talking all time coaches.
If we're including Roy Williams, Coach K are up there. Coach K, Roy Williams. I mean Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Do we even get out of the triangle?
It's hard to get out of the triangle.
Yeah,
it is hard to get out of the triangle.
Nobody for the Hornets. Nobody for the Panthers. You have.
Well, if
Jimmy V,
if you ask Matt Rule, he probably thinks he belongs on the Mount Rushmore.
Well, you had to give him 7 more years and then he'd be there.
Yeah, absolutely, he would be on there.
Well, Jimmy V.
Yeah, Joe. What do you do with Jimmy V? Right.
Right.
See, I just gave you summer content.
Thank
Mount
you,
Rushmore of North Carolina coaches.
Thank you.
The problem with doing it on professional only is you really do start to scrape the bottom of the barrel trying to figure out professional coaches for a Mount Rushmore. So you have to include college.
At that point, it's just Rod. And then, then you got to go to Fox and Rivera. Like the Hornets, man, that's Rod,
if it's just professional coaches and we're actually doing, American monuments, he would essentially be the Washington monument. He would just have his own, his own
with a better reflecting pool.
I would hope so. Yes. Make it out of ice. And then, or he'd have the Lincoln Memorial. Like he would just be in a chair, he would be his own thing.
Look, I'm telling you, I think we just stumbled across a reflecting rink. Like if he gets the statue, please make that happen somehow, some way. No algae issues on ice either. That'd be fantastic.
No, you just got to deal with the upkeep of having a Zamboni go on it every so often.
You want to talk with Roy about that next time you have Roy Cooper on? Maybe we get that going.
You know what? That's actually a good idea. Next time we talk to Governor Stein or we talk to former Governor Roy Cooper, our senior Canes correspondent, he's not doing anything else. I'll see if he wants to float some of those ideas for
important stuff.
Rink.
Important stuff.
Walker, we appreciate it. I'm assuming you've already knocked out like an emergency podcast on Locked On for the LaMelo deal.
Not yet. Tried. I'm experiencing some camera stuff. You wanted to talk about Rushmore and hockey, Joe. What am I doing? I'm trying.
I apologize for keeping you from an emergency podcast. You need to put the sirens in your title. Go do the thing, man.
Well, now we got to do Wes and Walker in an hour. So there's a lot. I will probably be on a microphone and in front of a camera for the next 12 hours consecutively. That's probably what's about to happen.
All right, man. I'm glad we could catch up. Have fun with all the LaMelo stuff. We'll talk to you later, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Walker for hanging out with us. And of course, big thanks to Two Roosters. Check them out online at tworoosters.com. Now is the time. You've got a heat dome thing happening. You want to get the kids out of the house, keep them happy, head on over to Two Roosters. I've never seen a frown at a Two Roosters. Kids are happy eating the ice cream. The parents are happy because the kids are occupied. And you're happy because you're treating yourself with any number of their fantastic flavors. And I do know that if you want to rock the Jordan Stahl post Stanley Cup glow, you got to get a Two Roosters shirt, which I know they've re-upped on that specific shirt. It's a tri-blend shirt, very, very comfortable. Highly recommend that you get it. So head on over to tworoosters.com and enjoy some summer ice cream. Big thanks to Chris Brassfield Accounting. We're getting to the halfway point of the year, as I mentioned. It's never too early to be thinking about taxes. Maybe you've been dealing with quarterly taxes. Maybe you are a small business owner and you deal with the world of government grants. And there's a lot of paperwork involved with that. And you don't have the bandwidth for it. This is where Chris Brassfield can step in. So hit him up online, brassfieldaccounting.com. He's based in Homer, Alaska, but they do have an office in the RTP. So it's not all remote. You got to bring all that paperwork. Somebody's there for you to handle it. And most importantly, once we get into 2027 and you start looking back on 2026, everything is there for you. Super easy, super convenient, and you're not mentally taxed trying to track everything down again. So go with a fractional CFO for your small to medium-sized business. Contact our guy, Chris Brassfield, brassfieldaccounting.com. Also, big thanks to Longleaf Swine. I know they've got OG Light in cans, so check them out, longleafswine.com. They can cater events for you. It's not too early to start thinking about tailgating. They got tailgating packages that are coming back. And let's say you don't have time to cook, right? You're having a bunch of people over and you want to enjoy entertaining, but not manning the grill the whole time. Longleaf Swine can handle that too. They can cater your 4th of July. Right now, if you go to their website, they've got some 4th of July packages that are ready to go. Hit them up at longleafswine.com to find out more. Joining us in studio on the Heister Automotive Group microphone is the VP of Communications, Mike Sunheim, a.k.a. the guy behind the guy.
That's a throwback now.
Is it a throwback now? Do people today even know about your old blog?
I highly doubt most people know or remember that blog.
Now, what was the point of the blog for those who don't remember? I remember.
Yeah, the blog was more to kind of give a little behind the scenes of what was going on around the team.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of show some of the personalities of the guys that maybe people didn't see every day, and
mm-hmm.
like just how things that they would do and things that we would see on the road and all the kind of various travels of professional sports back then and just, try to give a little flavor to the people.
Well,
I don't even think it exists anymore. I think when the NHL changed over how the websites work, the guy behind the guy blogs went into the ether.
I'm sure there's got to be some cached versions on the Internet Archive that I can pull up. I mean, if I can still find old 850 the blog posts on the Internet Archive, we can definitely find some old guy behind the guy blog posts.
Yeah. Certain issues of 850 the blog, especially, I'm sure you can find.
Well, we've morphed that to two Joes and one cup now. We don't do the two stations thing anymore. See, I can already tell. Already tell. You're like, what do you want to talk about? Like, look, you and I have known each other for a very, very long time, coming up on 30 years now.
Yeah, pretty close.
Pretty close to 30 years, right? And the reason why I wanted to bring you in is kind of tapping into the old guy behind the guy blog. Yeah. Because with social media, we kind of see what everybody wants you to see, much like the blog was there to show you what we wanted to show you. And one of the things that, I don't know, part of the reason why I wanted to bring you in is because you would know better than me. Does the cup seem more casual this year than it was 20 years ago? Like, it's just kind of pulling up. It was at North Hills at Vivace by my house. Not that, like, the day after they got it. It was at Rodino's, just chilling. Yeah. So what is different from 20 years ago? I feel like the players have a much more casual opportunity to hang with the cup the week after they win the whole thing.
I think some of it is the amount of time they had. Mm-hmm. When we won in 2006, we won, and then we basically had a parade 2 days later.
Was it 2 days later?
And then we had another parade 3 days later, and then they were gone in the draft, and we were at the draft.
Yeah.
And the cup was going to the draft too, because they still had the NHL awards show back then. Cam Ward was flying out there with his Conn Smythe and the cup, and they were jumping onto the awards show. So I think the fact was, we won on a Saturday or Sunday, and then the parade was on a Saturday. So there was a week when the cup was really in control of Jordan Stahl to do with as he chose.
That was my next question. Yeah. How did this sort out in that he's the captain? Obviously, you get special privileges when you are the captain. Totally understand that. But I don't remember that 20 years ago with Rod Brindamore.
Yeah, he got it. He got it right away. And it actually was almost more casual then, because I know that Rod kept it that night at his house. And now the cup is very strict. Like midnight, it's gone.
Interesting.
It goes back to the hotel. We also had one cup keeper at a time back then. Now it's always two.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because one person trying to do that job with everything that's involved with how people react to that thing everywhere it goes is tough and tiring, especially tiring.
Oh, come on. It's got to be the best job ever. It's a celebrity without the diva status. You don't have to deal with you don't have to go get a coffee.
The cup isn't talking back.
Right. Cup's not talking back. It doesn't have its own schedule. It's not telling you, can you go get me a cappuccino? It's not doing any of that stuff.
It's not talking back, but it is fragile.
True.
And things happen.
Speaking of which, did it get dented in Vegas? I saw a picture when I was coming back. Honestly, it looked like it got dented.
When Jordan Stahl, when we were looking at it sitting there before he even got it, it looked a little beat up. And I was like, why does that look a little beat up?
I want a fresh one. Come on.
The thing about it is it's silver and it's like thin, and it takes on damage just from like holding it up and a bunch of people touching it.
Oh, okay.
So like after, a week of being out and about with the guys, and then especially the parade, it's being lifted a whole bunch of times, and a lot of people reaching out and touching it, and ultimately, it was a little beat up, but needed some time, needed some downtime. It had to sit on a table and relax and not be picked up for a few days. The last few days it was here, it was on very strict no lift orders.
Interesting. I did not realize that you have a time limit until midnight. That's new information.
That's new. That's new. So nothing good happens after midnight anyway. So
don't feed it after midnight. You might get little Stanley Cups butting off of that. Because I have some people that I know that were at Bond Brothers, which is in Cary, and it I guess the cup keepers had it, and it just randomly appeared, and people were taking photos with it.
I actually I need to text the cup keeper, because that's obvious. That's my neighborhood. I can walk to Bond Brothers now. So I was like, why didn't you tell me you were going to Bond Brothers? I would have popped over. She probably doesn't realize I live there.
You know, I don't ask you for much.
Yeah.
You know, I don't ask you for much.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to be at Bond Brothers with it,
yeah,
we do have a beer.
Yeah, and so you want the beer in the cup?
I want the beer in the cup.
Yeah,
that's all I'm asking.
Well,
I have one request.
When the cup is eligible to be lifted and have things poured out of it again, I'm sure we can put that on the list. I would enjoy that on a personal level. Yes. I would enjoy having it at Bond Brothers.
That'd be amazing.
One of my favorite spots. So I would definitely enjoy that.
That would be good. All right, I did want to talk about 20 years ago with the parade. I feel like there's a little bit of Mandela effect or retconning of what exactly happened.
Yep.
So you refreshed my memory. There were two parades. Why were there two parades?
I think, one thing that's been a lot better this time around, besides the fact that we have way more fans this time around,
right?
Is that we weren't as superstitious about it.
Okay.
Like people started planning for the parade as soon as we made the final.
Mm-hmm.
So like with our team, it was, Matt Suter and Chris Greenlee started getting with people downtown, getting with Shop Local Raleigh.
Okay.
To start planning it ahead of time, and almost like once the series got to a certain level, they picked the day. They said, okay, it's going to be Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think we got way more ahead of it. That year, I can remember we asked some city of Raleigh, and I believe they said they didn't want to do one downtown. So then we planned the parade to be around the arena.
That's what I remember.
And we did the around the arena parade. Mm-hmm. And then they saw the reaction to us winning and saw how many people went to that one. And then they did want a downtown one.
But that was not as well attended because it felt kind of slapdash put together.
It was a little slapdash. There were people. I mean, there were people there. And we did the thing that we did the other day. We went to the General Assembly.
Yeah.
But when we did it back then, we did it with a whole team.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it was better to do it with a smaller group like we did this year.
Because I remember the arena parade. People kind of made fun of it a little bit because, typically you get a championship parade. People want it downtown. You see a thing. Like I would say this because, again, I was down in Orlando. On social media, once everybody started trailing the buses, that's the first time it hit me. I'm like, oh, Raleigh actually looks like a legit championship city. Yeah. This is actually kind of neat, right? And I guess, like you said, there's a lot more people, but there's a lot more fans. And I guess that also ties into something you've seen over the last 10 years. Unlike 06, unlike 02 that we remember, this was build.
Correct. So I think there was like a collective exhale.
Yes.
Finally, like we finally got over the top. We finally got through the conference final. And, we finally won. Like you felt like you start getting a little bit scared. And I think that goes for us and goes for the fans that it's just not going to happen.
Right.
That you're going to be that team that is forever close and doesn't get over the top. And we see that in all sports. There'll be teams that are close many times and just never get it done. So I think when we finally got it done, it almost felt like back in 2019 when we first made it back to the playoffs, like just the pure joy of like, finally
a relief.
Finally, it's a combination of joy and relief of we finally, even Tom said it the other day in one of his interviews, he felt relieved as much as anything else that, okay, we did it. It's finally, we've done it now. And now we can go for more of them. But,
I was going to say, now you got to do it again.
But we know we've at least done it with this group and this coach and this owner. And I think, for people that parade was unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Look, it was just like everywhere we looked, there were people on the parking decks and leaning out of buildings. And it was, you're on that stage and there's people all the way down to the Capitol building. And it was just, like you said, like it was like you think about the pictures of those parades in like places like Chicago and DC. And
that's what you expect.
Just the mass of people everywhere. Like everywhere you could put a person, there was a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it looked like.
Was that a trick shirt on Brendan Moore though? But that came off too easily, man.
There's no way.
I know they're all.
These are strong men.
I know they're strong men, but that shirt came off way too easily. It almost looked like a Hulk Hogan trick shirt. Come on now.
It was not a trick shirt. I think those guys, when they're determined to rip his shirt off, they did it in the locker room and then they did it on the stage.
I'll say this though. If you ever question the system behind the scenes, the physical workout program, obviously this comes from the top with Rod Brindamore. The fact that these guys have been partying nonstop since winning the cup on Sunday, going into Vegas. I mean, when did you call it a night? Because they seem like they went all
in Vegas.
Yeah. When did you call it a night?
Oh, I called it a night. Or I didn't even go to the club.
You didn't go to the club?
No, I went to the restaurant. Party, and then I was like, I know tomorrow's going to be a long day. I know these next few days it's not going to slow down. I need to be fresh. I'm going to go to sleep.
Do you want to go back in time and tell 27-year-old me and 28-year-old you, 29-year-old you? You're going to
take it easy.
You're going to be tired one day.
Yeah.
As like in 06, you're just nonstop. Now you're like, I got things to do.
I don't know how some of these guys did it for the amount of time that they did it.
They're like all night partying. I see the pictures because of social media. And then Jarvis is at a meet and greet the next morning like it's nothing. Right?
Yeah. I don't know how they do it.
To be young, Mike.
To be young. Yeah. I don't know if athleticism and fitness plays into it. I don't know. Like that's a different kind of fitness to be able to have these late nights enjoying yourself properly. That's why and bounce right back and do it again the next day.
That's why I was telling Graham Hill, who took over our Instagram accounts while they were at Bates's bar and stuff like that. He's like, you got to come out. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm old with 2 kids. I got a podcast tomorrow. I can't. Like, here's the credentials to the Instagram, man. Have fun. This is your cup. Like, have fun with it, man. Just do the thing. All right, now we're all focused on the cup. Where the hell's the Prince of Wales trophy?
It went back. I think it went back before the cup went back. The cup went back on early Wednesday morning.
All right.
It had to go to Canadian Price is Right. I didn't know that was a thing until this week.
The Wales trophy did?
No, the cup did. The cup had to go to that. The Wales and the Conn Smythe went back a little earlier. They get displayed at the draft. The draft is at the NHL draft. There's always like some kind of fan element attached to it. And the cup's there and other trophies are all there.
So
that's when they went back.
What was the Prince of Wales trophy doing during the cup final? If I know my story is correct, in 06, the Prince of Wales trophy hung out in our friend's Doug Worf's office, did it not? I'm pretty sure it hung out in Doug Worf's office.
I actually didn't realize that, but this time it was in Eric Tulsky's office.
So it was in Tulsky's office.
But
so who put it there?
So here's the thing, because none of us wanted to touch it.
Right.
If the players aren't touching it, we're not touching it. I'm not going to be the one to mess this up.
No.
Eric's not going to be the one to mess this up. So we had it in a case and it was in his office and he was like, boy, it would be nice to at least be able to see it, have it out of the case.
Okay.
So when we had the Stanley Cup Media Day on the Monday before we started, I actually recruited one of the NHL PR people to come up and pull the thing out of the case and put it on his dresser so that he could see it, but not touch it.
So full disclosure, I texted you asking, hey man, let's catch up. Let's get you on the podcast to go over some of these things. And I asked you, can you bring the Prince of Wales trophy? I know I'm not going to get the cup in here, but I'm like, I thought it'd be a funny bit if the Prince of Wales trophy, just because it's the one that nobody wants, was just hanging out in the studio for a little bit. Because who wants that trophy? But I'm glad that Eric was at least appreciative of the Wales trophy, just not touching it.
I remember when we got the Prince of Wales in 2002 and then lost in the final.
Because Ron Francis grabbed it.
He did. Well, I don't think that's why. I think it might have been the 10 Hall of Famers that the Detroit Red Wings had.
No, Mike. It had nothing to do with Detroit and
Dominic
the Hall of
Hasek,
Famer.
Brendan Shanahan, Steve Yzerman, and Nick Lidstrom.
Nope. It has to do with that photo that I see on the 5th floor. Every time I'm up there, there's Ron smiling, happy.
Yeah.
And you could see both Glenn Wesley and Rod Brindamore like, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm not touching that thing.
I think there was a team in the relatively recent past
that did it.
It might have been Penguins. Might have been Crosby.
That I don't remember. So in 2002, where was it in 2002 and 2006 then? Do you remember what happened with it?
In 2002, I mean, we were making the most out of that trophy.
Of course.
Especially since we, didn't win in the final. I can remember taking it around a little bit, even like taking pictures with my dog at the old well in Chapel Hill. Like I have that picture somewhere. My dog and the Prince of Wales at the old well in Chapel Hill. I mean, it felt exciting at the time. You want the other trophy, but if you didn't get the other trophy, you may as well make the most. And
I guess there was enough Whalers. I guess there was enough Hartford Whalers holdovers that never thought something like this would happen, so they were appreciating the Prince of Wales. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make the final 2 teams, it's still an achievement.
I get it.
It doesn't feel like it so much when you lose, but once you're going to get past the fact that you lost, you're like, okay, well, let's celebrate this a little bit.
Is that how you feel about Carolina Final Fours?
No.
Without championships?
No.
Oh, see, a little different standard.
Well, I can appreciate the Final Fours. They put up banners of the Final Fours. They have banners in the Lenovo Center for NC State's Final Fours.
All right. One more thing before we move on to Lenovo Center and some of the things that fans can expect or not expect to see here in this offseason. I'm going to put you in Brian Fork mode since he's not here.
There's going to be a lot of pleading the fifth.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm still going to ask you questions.
Okay,
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
What is a thing in this last 2 weeks or so since all this has happened that you appreciate? Because I texted you, like, after 20 years, this probably hits a little differently.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So what is it, do you think, that maybe fans don't think you appreciate, or maybe don't appreciate, with you having gone through this, Brenda Moore having gone through this, a lot of people in that building who have stuck around going through this, that maybe you appreciate a little bit more than you didn't back 20 years ago?
I think, to an extent, first of all, I'm in a different place in my life.
Yeah.
Like, my kids were able to experience this whole run. They felt that build up all these years too.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to have them in Vegas with us, celebrating it.
Seeing your kids hand out stat sheets during the final sent me to a place. I was like, I don't need to lose any more hair, Mike. I don't need to get grayer, but that made me feel old as dirt.
We'd lost a couple interns. They'd moved on to real jobs, and I had to get a couple more bodies, and cheap labor. Cheap
labor is the best kind of labor, man. No, but I think that's it. It's like you're just in a different place in your life, right?
For sure. And you just appreciate, I don't know. Like I always said, if we won again, that I think I would try to like enjoy the moments more, because you feel like your hair's on fire. And if my hair has been on fire for the last few weeks anyway, but
that's just
still kind of, it is also my nature.
It's just your nature.
That's fair. But it's still been nice to like just look out on those crowds and just scroll the socials and appreciate just the feelings that people have about this coming back here again.
So Lenovo shut down for like the next 8 weeks?
Yeah, it's shut down. There's a lot of construction. Like we were going to do some filming for the Stanley Cup video that we still do. I don't know if it comes out on DVD like it used to. I don't know how it comes out, but I guess we'll find out later on in the fall.
I still have that DVD somewhere.
Yeah, I do too.
That DVD from 06 is somewhere in the house.
I haven't pulled it out in a while, but we had to do those interviews, and I'd planned to do them in the Legend Club because I thought that would be an area that wasn't under construction, but I was wrong. That too was under construction. They were putting in new flooring. So pretty much the entire arena is under construction currently. So everything is shut down for a while. It's a huge project.
What's the biggest thing that people are going to see when they come back in? That's going to be different. I mean, I know they're adding
the seating bowl is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like the width of the seats, that's not changing. It's just a couple aisles. So some of the sections will be bigger.
Okay.
Some of the aisles are coming out. I think, I don't want to speak too much about this because I'm not sure which things are getting done when. So I don't, but
the key part here is this is shut down for the next 8 weeks. There's you don't have a concert interrupting things.
No concerts.
No games interrupting things. Correct. So this is actually just pure, let's get some construction done. So that's a positive.
Yeah. And we needed that.
Yes.
Especially if you're replacing seating bowls, you're not going to have a concert and just like put people in the upper level or something like that. So,
although I'm guessing it's a good problem to have that you played a lot longer into the season than you thought.
It is a good problem.
It's a good problem.
It's
still a problem, but it's a good problem to have as things get.
But they have a plan. There's smart people making these plans, and they'll get it done.
The other question is, this is more of a when can we expect some sort of announcement, plan, idea of what television is going to look like next year?
We're getting closer.
Okay.
I would think sometime in July.
Okay.
I would expect there'll be some kind of announcement or plan.
Okay.
I'm still weighing a few options.
That was my next question. It's not how many options, but I'm guessing you're coalescing around some idea of what it might be. It's just a matter of what you want to go with.
Yeah, pretty much that's where we're at.
Okay.
Where we're at.
I know you're not going to tell me.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
I know, that's fine.
But we're getting there. There's a lot of teams going through this, so we're all in communication with each other, both in the NBA and the NHL, and trying to figure out what the best option is for all of us and what the future looks like.
Okay. One last thing. The one player that you're happy to see get some media run that might not otherwise, because you got your standards, right? People are going to gravitate towards Jordan Staal because he's the captain. Seth Jarvis is clearly a character. Yeah. All those types of things. Slavin's getting the due that we all understand he deserves based on what happened in the Olympics and how he played in that last game. But there's got to be somebody that behind the scenes that's got a good personality, good front-facing person, but maybe doesn't get as much run as you think they should.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like I've enjoyed more than them getting a media run is just like how happy they are.
Oh yeah.
Like Jordan Martinook is just making the most, like anything that he can be involved in right now, he wants to be involved.
That's great.
Like he wanted to go to the General Assembly. I was like, are you sure you want to do this? But
he's in a different point in his life too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's older in comparison to some of those guys on the team, some of his teammates. So,
but it's been fun to watch these guys that I know wanted this so badly finally get it. And even though Jordan Staal won one back then, it was different. He's the leader of this team. That team had Sidney Crosby and had Malkin and all these other guys. So, he's the leader of this team, and to see him really just enjoying it, like see his family enjoying it, has been probably the most rewarding thing on that side.
I did not realize he could make the face that he made when he lifted the cup.
That was a good face.
That was quite the eyes.
It was actually cool to hear the mic'd up version of that, so you could hear what he was saying. Because in the moment you can't really hear anything.
Yes,
but that was pretty cool. They had him mic'd up for that.
All right, man. Well, congrats.
Thank you.
Now you're off to the draft. No sleep, right?
Yeah, straight to Buffalo tomorrow morning. I'll be on the plane on the way to Buffalo.
I'm going to avoid that trip with youth hockey this year. So
yeah, we are also avoiding it.
Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. I like the outdoor event.
It's fun.
It's fun, but I'm not quite sure.
There's always travel problems getting back.
Yes, as I discovered last year.
Youth hockey problems.
Youth hockey
feels safer to go to Tampa or something like that.
That's where we're going. Do we need to go over?
Going to Tampa.
Do we need to go over our tournament travel plans?
Tampa, Knoxville.
Tampa. Let's see. We got Tampa, Charleston, Savannah, Philly, and then Detroit.
We do have Utah in there.
Oh,
you did that last year.
You're going to Grizz Cup, eh?
We're going to Utah. I don't know what it's called, but we're going there.
You're going to the Grizz Cup, and you're going to come back addicted to dirty sodas. So have fun.
Okay, yeah. Our David Piper's been selling us on that. Our old PR guy that went out there.
Yeah, the dirty sodas.
On dirty sodas.
The dirty sodas are a thing.
Interesting concept.
Not for me.
I don't think I'm into that.
They're too sweet for me. Too sweet for me. All right, Mike. Yeah. Have fun at the draft. I'll talk to you later, man.
Thanks for having me.
It was fun to go down memory lane for a little bit. Maybe you just won the Stanley Cup and you didn't realize you have no room for it in your house for your day for the Stanley Cup. Something to think about. Future planning. Contact Hometown Realty. Say, hey, look, I need to have a spot to display a future Stanley Cup for me. So what do you got for me? What's out there? Now, look, all jokes aside, Hometown Realty, they helped fund our Stanley Cup final coverage. They've been serving North Carolina for 25 years. They understand the area to help you buy and sell with confidence. And it all starts by visiting their website, myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. Say you buy a house, you sell a house, you got to take that thing to close. We know just the lawyers for you to make that thing super easy. Just hit up our friends at Whitaker and Hamer. WH.lawyer is the website. Again, that's WH.lawyer. Do you have some personal legal needs? They can handle that. Small business like ours, handle contracts, that kind of stuff. Go over with a fine-tooth comb. They can do that. They have offices across North Carolina. They can help you. Whitaker and Hamer, WH.lawyer. Again, that's WH.lawyer. And, it's funny. We've been talking about off-season protocols, and we're about to go into off-season protocols with our guy, Dimitri. Last year we did a brief history of Triangle Good thanks to our friends at Color Graphic. I don't know if we're going to have time to do brief history of Triangle Good this year, but Color Graphic is always there for you with whatever marketing materials you need. You need a banner? They got you. Need a wrap for your car? They can do that too. Hit them up. sales@colorgraphic.com. Again, that's sales@colorgraphic.com. Roback keeps dropping new heat all the time on their website. Check them out online, roback.com. Promo code OG20 if you haven't used it yet. And if you have used the promo code, I'm not saying you make a burner account out of this. I don't know, maybe just use a throwaway email and then use the promo code, right? And if you go back to Roback and you're paying full price or you're taking advantage of one of their sales, always mention you heard about Roback from this podcast. It goes a long way. You support us by supporting our corporate champions, and Roback has been a fantastic corporate champion. Check them out online at roback.com. New print polos coming out all the time. They are not just polos and joggers and things like that. Highly recommend their Oxford shirt. They call it a sport button down. Incredibly comfortable, moisture wicking. I love it. I think it's a great shirt. So go to roback.com, use that promo code OG20. And of course, our friends at Bloomin' Blinds. It's sunny. You're probably trying to find ways to keep the cost of your electricity bill down with all the AC. One easy way to cut down on those costs is to invest in things like blackout shades, right? Better blinds. Keep the heat and the cold in. Contact our friends at Bloomin' Blinds. Bloomin', blinds.com, or call them directly at 919-980-9815. With Bloomin' Blinds, if you tell them you're an OG listener, you get 15% off. Straight up. You want an outdoor pergola? 15% off when you tell them the OG sent you. Automation, 15% off. Thanks to us here at the OG. Just tell them you heard about it on the podcast. 919-980-9815, bloominblinds.com. And to help me officially kick off-season protocols, getting into his binder of radio bits, it's Dimitri Ravanos joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Dimitri, this is where in the sports talk business, this is what separates the pros from the amateurs.
Agreed. And this year, with the added element of the World Cup, we have a different level of difficulty, Joe, because in addition to can you do sports radio in the summer, now there is, can you make compelling content out of the World Cup without going overboard or exposing that you really don't know what you're talking? There is a sweet middle ground for American soccer tolerance.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right about that. All right. So I feel that this requires a little bit more setup so the audience knows what's going on here. This really is OG business.
Yeah.
Front and center. Okay. Mount Rushmore season is a relatively new phenomenon in the sense that we all know what it is. There's not a lot of things going on in the world of sports, so you still have to fill up the time, whether it's on the airwaves or your podcast. The content never sleeps, man. So the easiest thing to do is to come up with Mount Rushmore topics. In the olden days, Dimitri, the Mount Rushmore topic was really easy, especially for us in this market. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of North Carolina sports? Who's on your Mount Rushmore with the Canes having just won the Stanley Cup? Who is on the Mount Rushmore of Carolina Hurricanes?
Yeah, I was about to say, if I were leading a sports radio station in Raleigh this week, each day would be dedicated to picking one spot on the Hurricanes Stanley Cup or on the Hurricanes Mount Rushmore, because we got to make it last, baby.
Hey, man, every single day we'll unveil the new bust on the Mount Rushmore. Now, years ago, I went super meta and I unveiled my Mount Rushmore of sports talk radio topics that indicates to the audience your host doesn't feel like working today.
Okay, I don't remember listening to this live. I remember talking about it with you before it eventually went on air. I'm going to guess some that were probably on there because they are summer sports radio go-tos.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We have
baseball movies.
Sports movies in general.
Okay.
Sports movies in general, right? win-loss totals. Like, let's just go through the schedule, call up how many wins do you think Team X is going to have this upcoming season. That was position number 2. The versus debate, MJ versus LeBron, right?
Okay.
That sort of thing. Hey, to your point about soccer, you know what would be really interesting to revisit this week? Is it time to revisit the Ronaldo versus Messi? Who's the GOAT?
Very good. Very good, yes.
Right? And if it's not MJ versus LeBron, hey, man, Tom Brady, Joe Montana. Which one? Who you got?
Yeah, there's the bend on that of what does X have to do this year to be in the blank up? Like, what does Patrick Mahomes have to do to be in the Tom Brady conversation?
Now, the final Mount Rushmore topic, I need your opinion on this because he passed away recently. Pete Rose is no longer with us, and I do wonder, with his death and the legalization of sports gambling, typically around the Hall of Fame, we had the last Mount Rushmore position, and that was what to do with Pete Rose. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame or not? That is an all-timer go-to to tickle the phone lines and kill an hour of sports talk radio with just going, all right, Joe in Chapel Hill, what you got? Hit me.
Yeah.
So that was my Mount Rushmore of topics that indicate to you, the audience, that the host doesn't feel like working today. So what do we do with Pete Rose?
So it's interesting. We got one last gasp. Actually, I think we've had 2 grand last gasps of the Pete Rose debate. One, you just mentioned his death, but the other one is the other thing you mentioned. When gambling became legal kind of across the board, particularly, by the way, when it became legal in Ohio, I know our buddy Nick Wilson did a whole day of how do you keep Pete Rose out for gambling in Ohio now? Okay. So I don't know that until he is in, does it ever go away?
Well, I do think it's morphed, though. So let's take Sorsby, the Sorsby topic right now.
Okay.
Now that he's trying to find a way to get into the NFL, the news of the week is that the NFL said, no, we have our collective bargaining. We're going to give you the Maurice Claret treatment. There's going to be some sort of punishment given your history with gambling. So I think that topic around Pete Rose has morphed into, should athletes be allowed to gamble if these leagues are taking money from the gambling companies? Like, so you're in bed with DraftKings, you're in bed with FanDuel, Caesar Sportsbook, whatever. Should athletes be able to gamble themselves? Like the classic, well, he never bet on the team. You know, that could easily tickle the phone lines. Instead of just the classic Pete Rose topic. I think there's just a variation of it. So I believe gambling still has its position on the Mount Rushmore.
I think you're right, because even before Brendan Sorsby, which it seems like an open and shut, pretty cut and dry case, right? You had like Jamison Williams, the Detroit Lions receiver, who was not gambling on football, not gambling on the Lions, but gambling in the Lions facility. How do we deal with that? Exactly. You're right. That one offers a lot of different bends. I think one that has fallen out of style but would be on this list maybe 10 years ago would have been the WAG debate, the wives and girlfriends.
Okay.
Whether it is hell, maybe that's its own Mount Rushmore, right? The Mount Rushmore of sports WAGs.
Geez. Okay. Well, now we're tapping into some real old school sports.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Like, shout out to WFNZ back in the old Mark Packer days.
Oh, sure.
They used to have the Tournament of Charlotte Babes.
Right.
We at 850 The Buzz back in the day had the Buzz Babe, and there was an entire summer contest around that. But we're a more enlightened society now, Dimitri. We don't do those types of things anymore. Right?
I would beg to differ based on some sports radio folks that I've spoken with. I do think it is one of those things that it's interesting whether or not we're a more enlightened society. Celebrities come from all kinds of places now that I don't think it's the same as, J-Lo showing up to A-Rod's game.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is no longer Derek Jeter. Let's look at the Maxim 100 and see how many of them he's dated, to the point where Derek Jeter has his own starting lineup.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think we have kind of moved on beyond that. So that's kind of where things have gone. What I would like to try to accomplish today is a new Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores, right? These are all old things that you can always go to. But is there anything new that's popped up? that helps people kill time in the summer?
I'll give you one that I've been thinking about this summer because I have a 14-year-old. We obviously are watching the World Cup, and he wants the U.S. to do well, but he follows soccer, and he wants his favorite players to do well, right? So we've been talking about American athletes that if they had chosen soccer instead of whatever. And like the one that legendarily people talk about and have talked about for years is Kobe Bryant, right? Because he spent part of his youth in Italy. He apparently loved soccer. And there was some real thought that if Kobe was just a big, tall forward, he could have been unstoppable. I feel like with the World Cup in the U.S. this year, that one is worth considering for the World Cup. For the Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore. I mean, you bring up Kobe Bryant. There's always the LeBron James aspect of this too, because he's just a super gifted athlete. But of course, that also morphs into, see, this is where I would go next. I'm with you. World Cup, real smart program director out there is probably thinking, hey, you're going places. I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at. But here's another one. I think this belongs on the new modern Mount Rushmore of sports topics.
Okay.
What is a harder transition for athletes to go sport to sport? For instance, could a basketball player go play football? How easy of a transition is that? Or could a football player go play basketball? Now, you almost have to take hockey off the table because skates are required.
Yeah, there is no transition to hockey. It is you are doing so many things at a world-class level at the same time.
So because we've seen any number of two-sport athletes from back in the day. We're old enough to remember without this specialization that we ended up having guys who could play football and baseball. We had a very small number of baseball and basketball. Remember, Danny Ainge got drafted first round in both drafts. Hey, Julius Peppers. I mean, we're old. Julius Peppers did play basketball and football, and he was a really good basketball player. People tend to forget those types of things. But
Charlie Ward won a Heisman Trophy, and that was the sport he was second best at.
Because what was it? It was basketball that he was very, very good at. So, and then heck, you bring it up. If we're going to bring up Florida State, Jameis Winston played baseball, even with his bad eyes back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of two-sport athlete scenarios that we can bring up, and maybe that's its own topic. Like, who's the best multi-sport athlete of your time frame? But I do think it's morphed into, with specialization, what would be easier for guys to transition to. Football to basketball, basketball to football. I think that's the main one, because football players will sit here and tell you the minute a basketball player has to line up against another guy and get hit for real, especially with the SGA-ification of basketball, like, oh, you just got near me, let me go flop somewhere, that football players would be adamant about the fact that no way you'd just be able to pick up and come over and do what we do and easily transition.
Yeah, and I think it was Austin Rivers, right, that talked about this on his podcast last summer, and football guys got all kinds of in their feelings about it.
Boy, did they get mad. They got mad about that kind of stuff. So I'm with you on that. What else do you have on the new Mount Rushmore?
Okay, so I went back and forth in my head over, would somebody actually do this? And I think in our new, more shameless, more partisan era, it is very possible, if we are done relitigating Pete Rose, do we start relitigating people accused and convicted of terrible things? Or do they deserve a second chance?
Like, give me an example.
So we obviously went through this for real with Michael Vick.
Yes.
Henry Ruggs just got denied an appeal. That was a top 15 draft pick. Does he deserve a second chance in the NFL? I do. And look, maybe it's because the Henry Ruggs thing was on my mind a couple of weeks ago, but I do wonder, do we feel a little less icky about relitigating legal matters now?
No, I don't think people feel less, as you say, icky about these types of things. I believe there is a line of demarcation in this country where we still hold athletes more than any other sector. We hold athletes to a higher standard than we do our own politicians.
No, I mean, I don't think that is entirely wrong, but at the same time, like, I mean, Mike Tyson is cuddly now. Jameis Winston is going to walk into a huge broadcasting career.
I guess it depends.
It does.
It really does depend on it depends on what happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also through the passage of time. Like, you know, in the case of Mike Tyson, I think he kind of got in on the joke, right?
Of who he is. Yeah.
And
there was also like, I mean, at one point, Mike Tyson was probably the most famous human being on the planet, right? Like, I think you have to fall from a great distance to have a shot to rebound to a normal place.
Okay. The other one that I would throw out there in terms of new modern Mount Rushmore topics in the summer, it is some variation, some flavor of college realignment, college conference expansion. And all of this has to do with the current state of the college football playoff, right? We've graduated.
Which, by the way, is its own entry on Mount Rushmore.
It really is. So the college football playoff itself has morphed from we need the college football playoff. We need to have some sort of postseason. It used to be that people would email these pages and email pages and pages and pages of their own format to make it all work and things like that. And honestly, what we actually have now is a worse version of some of the proposals that I remember getting via email 10, 15 years ago. It's kind of funny how we, the people, can come up with better formats than those who are actually in charge of coming up with the formats. Then again, we're also not out here trying to protect our own conference and keep all the money the way that the Big Ten and the SEC are doing right now.
It's funny. I have always said, I've said this to you and I've said this to clients and stuff that we've worked with in the past. I genuinely don't have a lot of respect for news talk radio personalities because I've done it. I admit I wasn't very good at it, but the direction I got was, go watch Fox News and then figure out how to say that tomorrow morning. And that's really like, as we become more and more polarized, even local talk show hosts are talking about Trump and Iran and Israel. There's not a lot of conjecture on what's going on at the North Carolina State Capitol on local news talk radio, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that sports with the college football playoff has found its own version of what was the thing of The Simpsons that Bill and Marty at KBBL had with like the DJ Tron 6000.
Yeah.
Would just spit out like, how about those clowns in Congress? What a bunch of clowns. Like that's kind of what you're talking about with the people came up with their own better playoff.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it this week. And this is why I am more and more convinced that the political machinations of college athletics has gotten to the point where that occupies more of our conversation and it creates more podcast content. It creates more like shout out to Kent Sports on Instagram or whatever Timmy Takes or whatever the guy's name is. That generates more heat for them than the actual results of the game. What to do with the future of college athletics.
And it also takes us down new paths, right? Like we cover the three triangle schools and maybe ECU, maybe App, maybe Wake, but it's all North Carolina schools, right? Yeah. I went to and loved the University of Alabama. Between you and I, there is no reason we should know the name Cody Campbell.
No,
if not for what is going on in Congress right now.
That's a feature. But that's a feature of college athletics that you can have these outsized characters that are affecting where things are going. And again, we're seeing it this week. We got the news that the NCAA is moving forward with their eligibility rules, essentially doing a soft age cap on on how it's going to go going forward to get rid of the 26-year-old European basketball player, that kind of stuff. Again, I get back to the college football playoff. What's the format going to look like? What is the Game of Thrones war that's taking place? The Dance of the Dragons, if you will. Technically House of the Dragon season. Since we're having the Dragons dance between Big Ten and the SEC and who's going to ultimately have their vision of college football going forward. Does college football break off? Like all these topics in and of themselves can fill content for hours throughout the summer. And here's the other thing too, and which this is why it's brilliant. And honestly, if we're building out a new Mount Rushmore, this is the Washington. Okay, this is the first one you see. It is these college football playoff discussions because they walk you right up to talking season, Dimitri.
Oh, for sure.
They walk you right up to middle to late July when the SEC, Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12 were all doing their media days, which then, of course, kicks you into the start of the season. So it's a perfect, there's just so much synergy with this.
So this is the prime talking season because waiting for football is probably a greater American pastime than watching football is.
Agree.
But there is actually one that can be used for every season that I think belongs on the Mount Rushmore specifically for football. It's too expensive to watch my games now.
Oh, that's a new one. That's it. Like, how do I watch football now? How do I watch my sports?
Right.
Well, are you the sicko that's truly trying to watch every game?
Right. So when Bomani and I did the show down in Atlanta, it was the night. I mean, it was still the NBA playoffs. I can't remember. It had to be first round. And I was watching him backstage tell his mom, no, the game's on Amazon. Yes, you do have it. It's just it's not something else you have to sign up for. Like that conversation is very much, like I said, it goes for every season, but the football version is the Mount Rushmore conversation.
And finally, and this is an evergreen, this will never go away. This always belongs on a Mount Rushmore. Let's get an old guy in studio to tell stories. Story time with an old coach. Story time with an old player that's still in town. Basically, just sit back and be like, hey, remember that time you won? That was cool.
Well, get someone else to do the work is the real, that's that topic, right? Because it is not crazy different from when I was working in Birmingham and I was working at a rock station at the time, but friends at sports radio stations would be like, oh, let's bring in the number one rated quarterback's dad.
Yes.
We can't have a conversation with the kid, but let's talk to his dad about what it's like to be recruited.
Yes. Yeah. Now, no, don't misunderstand. Okay. When I'm talking about this particular format of interview, I'm not talking about bringing somebody in to add some perspective about what's going on now.
No, not at all.
Like earlier this week, we talked to Eric Cole. Well, the reason why we talked to Eric Cole is that he had this awesome moment with Rod Brindamore at the parade celebrating the Stanley Cup. And as Gilio rightfully pointed out, it was the Predator meme of these two old dudes embracing, connecting these two things together. 2006, 2026, bang, rippling muscles. Okay. Yeah. So, especially on Rod. No knock to Eric, but especially on Rod.
I mean, look, next to anybody, the follow-up is always going to be especially on Rod.
Right. And actually, speaking of Rod, the shirt thing will come up on the paid side of OG Business. I have thoughts on, were those trick shirts? Or that's just bad quality.
I have
that for the paid side. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I have thoughts about the general shirtlessness nature of the parade.
So what I'm getting at is there's nothing wrong with bringing in a quote unquote old timer to hit on what just happened, add that perspective. I'm simply talking about, hey man, ain't shit going on July 13th.
Well, listen, take people behind the curtain a little bit though. Sometimes there is someone else that is smart enough to know there's nothing going on June 23rd. Why don't we have, I'm just pulling a name out of thin air, right? Why don't we have Jericho Cotry come by and tell old stories and remind people there's a new AT&T store?
Yes.
That's the secret.
Yes. Perfect. All right. So I think we've thrown a lot of these at the wall. So I think we have let's come up with our definitive.
Okay.
Let's come up with our definitive new Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmore sports talk.
College football playoff is absolutely the Washington and/or Lincoln, whichever one you think is the primary president.
Primary, boom. I'm with you on that. College playoff. What would you like to put in the second spot?
I would like to put it's too expensive to watch my games.
Too expensive. Okay. And then we're going to put in story time.
Okay.
Let's bring in story time. Let's just, hey, tell me about that time.
Yeah.
What was it like behind the scenes? Was that coach really an asshole? All that kind of stuff. And again, it's its own good genre. Don't get me wrong. A lot of former player podcasts are essentially this. Just bring in your buddies and let's tell some stories. And it's a perfect time to do it. And what do we want to put for the last spot?
You know, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I feel like what American athlete would make the best soccer player is more of a like traveling exhibit than it is part of this Mount Rushmore conversation.
Then I think we have to tip our cap to Austin Rivers and say the last spot goes to what's a harder transition?
I think that's fair.
Could the best NBA player survive in the NFL?
And, you know, the other part of that, too, is an evolution of one of the real foundations of sports radio Mount Rushmore of is blank a sport. Like the transition, that really is an evolution of that topic, if you think about it.
It really is, because it does bring in the stray call of, well, that might be hard, but have they ever tried to hit a curveball?
Right.
That's where we get into it. And, of course, the hockey knowers will do what I just said. Well, I don't see any of these guys on skates getting hit into the boards. They wouldn't last 2 seconds. Right. So it's a perfect topic to get people to call in and react and just take an hour off, because
for sure,
we're just trying to get to the end of the day, man. Just trying to get to the end of the day.
It also is the perfect place. You know, you hit on this a couple of weeks ago when you talked about doing segments on FNZ about the Canes, and some young producer told you, oh, no, I know puck. This topic of, you know, transitioning from one sport to another, it is the perfect place to give the producer that won't shut up the ability to sort of feel like he's steering the ship a little bit, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Let him be the one to comment. All you're doing at that point is sort of keeping time. Let him be the one to comment on people calling.
Because that producer will inevitably bring up their D3 time.
Absolutely.
They're going to bring up the time they played Sport X at the D3 level. And I'm telling you how hard it is.
Listen,
anyway.
I will be the first to talk about a junior varsity baseball game where I hit 2 home runs. It doesn't have to be even as high as D3.
I'll tell you what's the hardest thing: running a beer mile in under 10 minutes. There's my greatest athletic achievement. Anyway, Dimitri Ravanos, he helps me out on OG Business, obviously fills in and helps out behind the scenes with some OG media stuff. We will continue this conversation on a full, proper episode of OG Business, where we will discuss Fox acquiring Roku. What's the end game on that? We will also discuss Alexi Lalas being everybody's favorite piñata during the World Cup in terms of coverage. I'll also give you the latest on Walt Disney World fashion trends, Toy Story 5, and is Olivia Rodrigo making music for the youngins or old dads like me and Dimitri?
She's making music that speaks to teenage girls like you and me.
We'll discuss all of that on the full episode of OG Business, which you can get on our YouTube membership channel. So just head on over to our YouTube membership channel. We got a link for it at the bottom of our descriptions. You can also, when you go to YouTube, you'll see the join button. It's just $5 a month. You get the full OG Business. You get the full OG mailbag. It's all there. Dimitri, I appreciate you. We will continue this conversation in an OG Business.
Yes, I will see you in mere seconds.
All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe. I think I got a little time to go to the OG Sports phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, let's go to a 252.
Oh, I went down to Bond Brothers Brewery and sat down with my microphone and headphones. I had people lining up to talk to me. Unfortunately, it was a disaster. All of them wanted my responses in Spanish. So I ended that. So the beard is gone as the cup has been raised. I still might circle back to the REM idea. Hometown Realty and Copiers Plus. Yeah. Color Graphic and State Farm. Yeah. The Butcher's Market and Longleaf Swine. Yeah. Miller Lending and Bloomin' Blinds. Yeah. Joey, did you hear about this one? Tell me that you could give a fuck. Joey's got fired on a Wednesday. They were shit out of luck. If the OGs could start a podcast at noon. Podcast at noon. If the OGs. Well, I need to stop before you get a copyright strike. Hasta la vista, babies.
No context to that. But that was, you know what? When I see Joe tomorrow for the mailbag, I'll tell him, hey man, write down a 252 REM remix from June 25th. That's going in the end of the year. Easily going into the end of the year. Well done. I have to send that off to Brian over at Nice Price to get a actual produced version of that. Let's go to a 540.
Hey guys, it's Rod. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I think it's time to step away and retire. I have accomplished.
I was going to say, it's a 540. I know Rod's number. So it's not Rod, but that's a pretty damn good Rod. That's pretty good. Continue.
That's all I think I can do. So it's time to move on. I know I'll need something else to do with my time, and I've finally figured out what it is. I want to be a podcaster, and not only that, I think I want to join you guys. And I've also got a name for the show. Instead of the OG, how about the OGB? The theme song could sound something like, "You down with OGB? Yeah, you know me. You down with OGB? Yeah, you know me." As far as me contributing, I can listen to drunk and stoned callers bitch about Dave, or UNC and Duke fans go at each other. Or hell, for that matter, I can do some of the things that Gillio does, like say fuck in front of the former governor. Tell someone to stick a dick in their ear, or be talking about the Raleigh Christmas parade and suddenly go on a 15-minute tirade about Tony Bennett and how UVA sucks. Anyways, I thought I would throw it out there, and bye for now.
That's pretty good. That is a very good Rod. That's very, very good. Here's the thing about that, all jokes aside. If Rod wanted to, he'd be pretty good at this. He pays attention. He pays attention to other sports. He pays attention to what's going on outside the Carolina Hurricanes. And he does have takes. He absolutely does have takes. So who knows? Obviously, I'm not rushing Rod Brindamore off into retirement or a broadcasting career, but whenever it wraps up for the Carolina Hurricanes, not a bad idea. Something tells me we would not be able to afford Brindamore, though. Doubt it. Don't think that's the case. Not on our budget. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you for an OG Mailbag Friday.